Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. We're going to take a look at the Mordax flipper, and this was/is a project between three different groups. You've got Mass Drop, which is now called Drop, Ferrum Forge, and then you have Protech Knives based out of California. And this was kind of an ambitious project for Drop, or Mass Drop essentially, because they took, up to this point, at least all the major releases have been overseas manufacturing, very price point aggressive builds, although they did do one with Millet. But this is kind of among the higher priced offerings, and a lot of people were unsure about it. Plus it's a button lock flipper, which is something we don't see a whole lot of. So let's take a look at this one in detail, and this is what it ships with. Here's the model number and so forth, but pretty basic fare. And let's take a look at it in comparison with the Gent or Mass Drop Gent, which was arguably perhaps their most well-known or best-selling knife release under their brand to date. And I think a lot of people I think they were a little bit spoiled with the Gent, because initially it came in at $80. And I feel like that set somewhat improper expectations of knife manufacturing prices. I don't know if they made any money on this thing or not, but then you come to a USA made from Protech, who is a premier manufacturer based out of California. Certainly well known for their automatic knives, more so than anything. In fact, I think this is the first manual knife that they've made that I'm aware of. I'm sure there are others, but nothing came on my radar until this one, so that was kind of cool. Let's look at a couple size comparisons here while I'm yapping a bit. So, the blade length is 3.6, the handle length is about 4.6, overall length about 8.25. The weight on this one is about 3.6 ounces. Several different variations, several blade finishes, several different colors. It is an aluminum handle, and we'll talk about that in a minute here. But where is my other size comparison? We've got the Para 2 here. So, yeah. There we go. There's the last one. Pretty much in line with the Para 2, but you certainly get a lot more cutting edge. Let me get stuff in frame here than you do with the Para 2. So, price point on these were about $260, depending on what options you went with, and the milling on the handles versus no milling and so forth. But it is actually quite a compelling offering for a number of reasons. So let's talk about those real quick. But button lock flipper, let's look at the action, and this thing has one of the best actions I felt in a long time, rivaling knives that are many times over its price point. So look at that, just drop shut, completely smooth action. Some of the other knives that I have that have comparable actions are probably going to be like my Craig Brown Servo, a custom. The action on this thing is really in line with a lot of the Grimsmo knives as well, like the Norseman and so forth. That's how smooth this thing is, and that was one of the things that impressed me the most, is just the really nice action. Really good fit and finish. A lot of people were unsure about the fact that it is an aluminum handle, but you have to keep in mind that Protech, being an automaker, aluminum handles are their forte. If this had been done in titanium, the prices would have been in line with the Ferrum Forge knives themselves, coming out of their shop, which were probably to the tune of $400 or $500, simply because this is the realm that Protech works in with a lot of their autos. So they also pushed Protech, at least Elliot at Ferrum Forge did, to use a higher end steel, which is CPM 20 CV. And that was a good choice too. Again, Protech for the most part uses 154 cm, not the powdered metallurgy version, just the standard 154 cm. Dave has told me when I asked him about it that he feels like they have the heat treat really well dialed, and so the performance you get is in line with, again, higher end steels and other things. So I won't argue with him about it. Dave over at Protech is an absolute gentleman, and I think is a wonderful ambassador for our hobby as a whole. So anyways, this one has kind of the, the Geiger-esque milling that Ferrum Forge really, really, really loves to do. It's okay on this one. It's not too much for me. And I know a lot of you guys are wondering, hey, do these create hot spots? And the answer is yes and no. If you're shoving your finger in this thing and really kind of jamming in, it's not going to be comfortable. But in hand, you don't feel it. It's not bothersome. In fact, it is quite grippy. So the answer is yes and no on that. Lockup, pretty solid. With button locks, you do get a little bit of movement, kind of front to back and side to side due to the nature of the button lock. I'm not an engineer. I'm not going to go into it. But that's been the case with every manual button lock, not an auto button lock that I've ever tried. So again, perhaps you'd agree or disagree based on your experience, but man, look at that action. So again, these were debuted months ago. They're now starting to ship, so you're going to see these things for sale on the secondary, or perhaps Drop will do another run of the Mordax flipper at some point. Overall, the lines are very nice. It is done with a flat grind, comes down to a pretty nice edge, and they did a wonderful job sharpening. Again, as with Protech, I'm going to assume that the heat treat is spot on, since they do a really good job with the 154 cm. They're a very, very competent knife maker. But again, it's going to be a bit more expensive because this is USA made. They are based in San Diego, I believe. So it's a California shop, US workers, not cheap. So anyways, again, I guess the moral of the story is that it's very, very well made. I would not be dissuaded by the fact that it's aluminum at all. It feels like a bead blasted anodized titanium in hand, really. Pocket clip is deep carry, screws are recessed, and it works very, very well. So good ergonomics, good in the hand. The blade has been rounded. I better give you guys some close-ups if anyone is still watching. Let's take a look at the mating here between the two scales. I believe they were all serialized. The forward finger choil is usable. I'm kind of maxing out the space here, so if you were larger than an XL, or you have really large fingers, it's going to be too small. Everyone else, just fine. You can choke up easily on this thing. So yep, that is the Drop / Ferrum Forge / Protech collaboration. Hopefully they do more. Hopefully this is well received. Hopefully the patrons of Massdrop, or the people who shop there, will appreciate this knife for what it is as a USA made product and not get too hung up on the price. But if you guys find these on secondary, for a good deal, or what you deem as a good deal, again, this action is just insane if you want to try kind of that crazy smooth, almost finger guillotine thing, but you don't have to put your hands in front of it because it's a button lock. So yeah, and the D10 is good too, which is not something you get on every button lock flipper. It can be hard to do. Dave at Protech said it took them a while to find that perfect balance of D10 strength and so forth. And then, okay, shaking it as hard as I possibly could, I finally got it to come out. So again, the D10 is just fine on this thing, but God, that action is addictive. So it's a nice piece. I think they did a good job. Of course, there's a lot of other videos on this knife out there, so if you're still not sure, track down some other videos, watch those, see if it's a good fit for you, and hopefully this was helpful in some way, shape, or form, or at least you guys let me ramble for a bit. So many more videos to come. Thanks for watching. See you guys soon.